It was the early 1990s, and Ghislaine Maxwell had recently met Jeffrey Epstein for the first time, most likely through her father, media mogul Robert Maxwell. But my own and other investigative reporters' efforts on this question have not been able to confirm the exact circumstances. Soon after, Ghislaine started an intimate relationship with Epstein, and they were a couple for many years. When their relationship ended, they remained, in Ghislaine's own words, as we will hear at trial, the best of friends. From what was argued at trial, and from what I know from the victims I have become close with, it seems that Ghislaine became Epstein's closest associate and second in command. She was involved in every detail of Epstein's life. During the 10 years the defendant and Epstein committed these crimes together, the prosecution will argue, the defendant was the lady of the house. She ran Epstein's various properties, hiring and firing employees. She imposed rules, instructing employees not to speak directly with Epstein or with other people visiting Epstein's homes. When she took charge of these homes, the rules for staff were strict. Employees were to see nothing, hear nothing, say nothing. There was a culture of silence. That was by design, because behind closed doors, the defendant and Epstein were committing heinous crimes, the prosecution would argue. They were sexually abusing teenage girls. Ghislaine and Jeffrey were partners in crime, the jury will be told. They had a playbook. First, they got access to young girls. Then they gained their trust. The thing I will learn, not only as I listen to opening arguments, but also from years of speaking with victims of Ghislaine and Jeffrey, is this. Ghislaine was unbelievably beguiling and knew how to use her charm incredibly effectively. She was rich and fabulous looking, and everyone wanted to be like her. She was well-spoken and clever, and her Oxford accent made her magnetic. This is important because here's what I've also learned about Jeffrey from the victims who, unfortunately, had to spend so much time around him. He was an introvert. He hated socialising. He was not a charmer. That's why he needed her. As I sit there, listening to the opening arguments, imagining these moments back in the early 1990s, I realise that this trial might actually go some way to achieving what I had spent the last year hoping it would. Explaining the process of grooming and its place in child sexual abuse. Explaining that it begins with trust and salvation, so that when the abuse comes along, the child is confused and immediately blames themselves. Some of the girls had difficult home lives and came from families that were struggling to make ends meet. That's why they were chosen. Ghislaine and Jeffrey were wealthy, powerful and well-connected, and they flaunted it. They made sure everybody knew that they held court with billionaires and presidents. They made young girls believe that their dreams could come true. They figured out what the girls wanted to be when they grew up, and they promised to help, to pay for school fees, to pull strings so they could become actresses, models, professional musicians. They made these girls feel seen. They made them feel special.